if you want to put where you're calling in from and 3 words to describe how you feel about money, and you hear the word. And caveat, money and sex are 2 of the most triggering things in life. So it's okay if you have things coming up that make you feel a little uncomfortable, make you feel a little ashamed or squirm. And love, hate it, resistance. Hi from Leicester, hi to London. And everyone on the chat who's getting the replay. If you're, whatever you're doing, if you're driving or you're listening into this, just think for yourself, when I hear money, what are the first 3 things that I think? Coming and going, always not enough, anxiety. Yeah, absolutely. Controlling, freedom, powerful. Fear, love, freedom. And those of you who are joining now, I'm just asking people to put in the chat where you're from and 3 words that you associate with money when you hear that. Like, what are the first 3 words that come to your head? Woohoo, yay, sexy. Or, ah, want more, feel guilty for wanting more, all of those things. So it's really common for us to have a slightly, I was trying to think of a less controversial word. Well, like it's not that PC. We have a kind of schizophrenic relationship with money. Like we want more of it, but then sometimes we feel guilty for wanting more. And then sometimes we feel virtuous for wanting less and living on less and cutting back and being streamlined. And I don't know about you, but I have a really clear memory of a lamp breaking, my bedside lamp that I'd had since I was about 17, right? I bought it in Woolworths, so I'm aging myself. And this lamp finally gave up the ghost, and no new light bulbs or fuse plugs were making it work again. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go on and I'm going to line and I'm going to buy another 2.99 lamp. And I was looking at all these lamps thinking, they're ugly. I want something nicer than the lamp I bought when I was 17. I'm 27 now. And then suddenly, 20 minutes later, I'm in heels, I'm in home, I'm looking at lamps at 250 quid. And suddenly I'm telling myself, oh, I deserve a £250 lamp. And going down this rabbit hole and this, and then kind of going, no, hang on a second, Helen, what are you doing? Close all the tabs down, buy a £5 lamp from Tesco's and be happy. And does anyone else get this kind of slightly bipolar switch between what they should, and I can see some smiles and nodding heads, it's not just me, between what our identity is with money and who we are and who we're not and who we're allowed to be, who we aspire to be, and the stories we tell ourselves about it. So thank you so much for joining. And I know some of you might have been getting the wrong link, but you're here now. Sorry for any stress about that. Technology is always here to challenge us and keep us on our toes, and also great for facilitating us meeting like this. So what we're going to do in the next hour is I'm going to go through and share some of my key, most powerful takeaways that I work with clients. And I can only teach this work because I have lived it. It has been part of my life story. I was able to transform like an abusive childhood, drug addiction, career suicide, tabloid exposure, all sorts of what a huge amount of shame, all sorts of things that happened in my life. Leaving home at 15, blah blah blah, having a kind of very unhealthy process in life. It healed everything, healed all the diagnoses I was giving on my body about being infertile for life, about having narcolepsy, never being able to drive. Like I cleared all of this, and the one area of my life that I wasn't able to transform was money. And I was like, how can I go from hating myself and trying to kill myself literally to loving myself and having a great life and all of this, and that money is this one thing, and it's the one thing that I need every day as well as food. I also healed an eating disorder. Like how is this the block? And it was only when I took money really seriously and it brought up all the other stuff that maybe I'd brushed under the carpet a little bit that I was able to transform my life. And I didn't know then the depths with which healing my relationship with money would heal my relationship with my faith, heal my relationship with my ability to relate and love people in different situations in life, because I had such a hang up about what it meant to have money or not have money, and I was so judgmental about other people and what I thought I was capable of or who I thought I was capable of being because of what I told myself about money. And so I'm going to do my best to give you some really great actionable content in this hour, but I can't give you everything. And if you, those of you who get things from this, great, off you go, fabulous. Stay in touch. I'd love to hear how you do. If you want to go deeper, I'm going to talk to you about the end about how we can work deeper if you'd like to, because I've got a great course starting in a couple of weeks. But no worries about that. I've got you either way. I put a lot of things online and through my newsletters, so and you can unsubscribe if it's not for you, no problem at all. I don't just work with money, but it has been a current theme, and because lots of clients get results in this area, it's something that I've become more popular and known for doing. Um, and I think in my belief system now, we need more good, conscious people with more money making more wise decisions so that money is flowing to the places and the people and the companies and the organizations and the new projects where it's most needed, because we have so many role models about what not a good use of money is. But it's not, money isn't the problem, it's who's using the money that is the problem, right? Or the way that they're using it, and whether it's there to uplift and support that which is going to enhance and give life, or that which is going to use to control and manipulate. And so I believe that we could all do with having a more healthy, joyous relationship with money. Put in the chat if that sounds good to you. Give me a thumbs up or a wave, and I know that we're in the right place. And we'll start going. Just check I've got everybody out of the waiting room, and we'll make a move. Great, fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. In the right place. So, little bit about me. I grew up in London. I grew up with one parent who had come from quite upper middle artistic family, and yet his dad went off with his mum's best friend when he, my pleasure, when he was 11, and his mother then turned to alcohol to get through the heartbreak and essentially drank all the money away. So he went from having quite a big experience of money till the age of 11, and then gradually seeing everything drain away and implode. And consequently, my dad had a lot of fear around money. He didn't want to ever spend it. He wanted to control it and never spend on taxis and count the cost of everything. And my mum grew up really working class. She had two brothers, one of whom was physically and mentally very disabled in a wheelchair. They lived in a 2-bedroom council flat. My granddad worked 7 days a week as a painter and decorator, and my gran was too sick to work. So he essentially was like trying to care for the whole family, and my mum had to care for her brothers. But she was super smart, but her mum was very working class, had stopped school at 11, and didn't want her to do well because she thought the education would show the family up. So she wanted her to be a hairdresser and not become a teacher, and was very uncomfortable that my mum slowly was starting to earn money. I didn't grow up with lots of money, and I grew up with a lot. And my mum's belief with money was that you can't take it with you, so you might as well spend it, but there isn't very much. And there's no point trying to have more than you have. As long as you've got food in the cupboard, everything else could go on partying. So these were two quite unhealthy and unhelpful perspectives with money. My main money mantra that I was told growing up was that I would never get a mortgage because I was a creative and not to be trusted with money. And the other thing that I was brought up with was that good people are poor and bad people are rich. because bad people work with money for selfish reasons, and good people are things like nurses and cleaners, and they help look after people. So I had to do a lot of work to get myself out of this hole, because I would meet people, and if they had money, I would think you're a bad person. Right? Anyone else relate to this kind of level of judgment? And I think it goes, especially in the UK, like the class system has so not helped us. And we come from a history of ploughing the fields, like all living together in a village, not having a lot of money, toiling an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, and then in the big house with all the bedrooms and all the food, is one person living off our sweat and tears, right? And without community, who's alone and nasty and they've got it all, but we're happy and we're good and we're poor, right? And this still, I think, really, especially in the UK, less so in the States, but perpetuates the narrative that we have around what it means to have money. And so until we start to become conscious of these thoughts and how ridiculous they are and how unhelpful they are, we can't pull them apart. So as we go through today, just make sure that you are staying grounded, you've got some water, you've got some tea, that your nervous system can stay regulated, because some of this can get a little bit tender and a little bit uncomfortable. One way that I used to really take myself out of the game with money was by not valuing myself. I thought I was, but the way that I spent money on myself, or didn't, shared showed me when I started looking at this how I wasn't I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't valuing myself, and the course that I run is called Not About the Money, because really money, although money is often the thing that we think we want more of, it's what money can do is actually what we're looking for. It's what money gives us, what it facilitates, what it allows us, who it allows us to be, and how it allows us to be. And so by making friends with it, we open up floodgates, we open up the portals, the doorways to bringing more of who we're meant to be onto the planet, because we move out of struggle and we move out of shame and we move out of lack and limitation. So I'd love to know, if you can put in the chat, how do you value yourself? Or how do you know that you're valuing yourself? So, for example, it might be I take myself for a massage. It might be when I have a big payday with a client or a bonus, I spend a proportion of that on celebrating myself and I invest a portion of it. It might be I look after my supplements. Right, so we've got give yourself structure, time out when you've got a busy schedule, so you don't feel overwhelmed. Brilliant. Looking after your body, what you eat, you exercise, mostly save, ironically, eating a good diet, looking after your health, taking time to be without doing anything, go to the cinema or the theatre as a treat, exercise, great. So these are all really great ways about how we value ourselves. And then, okay, love nature, wild swim every week, beautiful, Pilates, buy nice clothes for work, like to do that more. Um, what, and interesting, I'm just gonna, this may or may not be true, Kate, but I'm just gonna point out that buying nice clothes for work, and if there's a narrative that it's okay to buy nice clothes because it's for work, but maybe it's not okay to buy nice clothes that you would never wear to work, but are actually bloody lovely, but they're just for you. Yeah, so, okay, don't do that. Um, so where do you not, where is there evidence in your life that you're not valuing yourself? And I'll give you examples. I had a very distinct moment, and it was just before I invested to really work with a coach to change my money story. And I was in my 30s. Um, and my boyfriend, who was in his 40s, lived on the other side of London to me. And I had to leave the webinar about money that I've, the first time I'd had the courage to actually look at this. And I actually went on to judge the hell out of the woman who was talking about it, because I was very much in a spiritual world, and she was supposed to be a spiritual money coach, and I was thinking there's no such thing. And I went on to judge her. And then I had to leave that webinar early to cycle across London to give my boyfriend in his 40s a bag of lentils because he'd run out of food and he had no money to buy food. And as I'm on this bicycle, and I'd been listening to what she was saying, and I was just thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm choosing to be with somebody, and it's not about that, but it was an indication of many things that were dysregulated in his life, um, who can't provide for me, can't support me, can't help me. Not that a partner has to do that, but I can't do that for myself properly, and I'm helping him out, and he has a daughter, and he can't provide for her properly, and I want to have a family, and yet I'm making these choices, and I'm in a place in my where a lot of my friends have houses and properties and families, and I don't have any of those things because I can't afford I wouldn't be able to afford to take time off being self-employed to have a pregnancy, to not be working, 80 hours a week for minimum wage in between trying to set up a business, right? So these were ways I suddenly became really clear I wasn't valuing myself because of the choices I was making. And it's not that you have to define your relationships financially, but it was one way that I was spending so much time going to supermarkets to look at how to buy discounted food at certain times rather than how to make money. I was always looking at how to save money. I would never have holidays. I would never pay for flights, right? Relationships that I had with friends were strained because of my perspective on finances. Because if somebody told me they were having a holiday, I would want to go, oh, where to? How long haul or short haul? Didn't you just have one? How much were the flights? Did you get a deal? How long are you going for? And all I was doing was like auditing my friend's life to see how much they were spending, because I was seeing the world through lack at all points. And that was my lens, and that meant that this is how I was showing up, right? People would tell me their relationships or their marriages were ending, and I'd start calculating how much money they'd get in the divorce settlement rather than being emotionally available to support my friends. Like, it was such a toxic perspective, and I forgive myself for it, but I, I'm very pleased that that has changed, because now more than ever I'm someone who can help, I'm someone who can show up, and I'm someone who can contribute, because I'm not always running on an empty, I'm not always running with like the petrol thing in red, right? Thinking I can't do anything for anybody else because I can only just got enough to get me to the next petrol station. So I'm really pleased you're here, because this is the beginning, hopefully, of really changing how you relate to money, to finances, for yourself and your future. And it's it's a really exciting time to be on the planet because of the use of AI technology, um, the rate with which that we can get educated and make decisions and set up financial instruments and things that can bring us change our money story faster is so different to it was in my mother's generation, right? Like, we now, through the power of the internet and things like that, we have access to so much more. And like, my mum wouldn't have known what a coach was, right? She wouldn't have known what a consultant was. She wouldn't have, she had a financial advisor and just listened to that one person's piece of advice, but she didn't know if they were a fiduciary or not. She didn't know if they had her best interests in heart or not. And all of those things, like that 20, I'd say it's like 20% of your relationship with money is the actual kind of like bank accounts, transactions. The other 80% is the energy and the emotion and the story and the identity that you have around money. And yet we kind of, that bit is more nebulous. It's harder to look at and less structured, and there's not many people doing it. Whereas there's a lot of people with YouTube videos talking about whether you should be in crypto or not, or what bank rate you should be, or whether you should be investing in property. But if you can't understand yourself and your relationship with money, you will be like the people who win the lottery. And they've done lots of studies on this, that within 7 years of winning the lottery, and I'm not talking about like 50 quid, I'm talking about people who win the millions, the big pots, are back to the same financial situation they were 7 years before when they won the money. Because money ultimately is energy. It's a mirror of ourselves and how we relate with it. And so unless we change our identity and our capacity to hold more energy, hold more financial power, we find ways to push it away. And so I encourage you, firstly, as my first point, to really look and value yourself at such a deep level for being a human being on the planet now. Like, regardless of degrees or masters or doctorates, regardless of how much money you have, like the fact that you've got to 2025 in like chaos land, like, and you're sorted enough to turn up to a webinar and look at your money story, like you are doing well, right? You are a good human being taking responsibility for your life and wanting to grow. And those are the sorts of people who I'm interested in working in, because that's who I am, right? I'm like, yeah, all this crap happened to me when I was growing up, but it's made me who I am. If I hadn't have gone through X, Y, and Z, it wouldn't have given me the desire to grow, because everything was so painful. I had to find ways to change. And we don't, the idea, the hope is that we have the hunger to change now, so those big painful things don't have to come and hit us around the face to make us change. And so now I feel like I get on my growth treadmill in order that I don't get sick, right? In order that I don't have to go through X, Y, and Z to decide to carry on trying to be and grow into a, let's say, a better person, but that can be a byproduct, but a truer version of who I really am in the best possible way. Because we all have, whether you think of it as your higher self or your self-realized self or your Christ consciousness or your Buddhahood, like this aspect that is in us that is divine and able to work our life and contribute and be good, right? Because there's always going to be obstacles and things to deal with, but who we are dealing with them is what matters. And so by taking on money, we are going to like a root cause of some of the biggest blocks that we can have in how we can cope with life. So well done. So coming back to this point, second thing that I'd really like to share is how we can become, as I mentioned in the beginning, sort of like out of balance. Like, what is my identity with money? Am I somebody who buys the £299 lamp and is super proud of myself for saving all that money, and yes, it might be ugly and it might not last more than 6 weeks on Amazon or whatever, but I've saved money and I got it quickly and cheaply and it's there, right? Or am I okay being the person who spends 300, 3,000, 300,000 pounds on a lamp that's beautiful? And that's my identity. The way that I like to think about it, and give me a yes in the chat if you've read the book Attached. It's a book about our attachment styles, or you might have seen podcasts about this, and how we relate to lovers, how we relate in relationships. And so to talk about it and I made this connection because I was also had a very bad relationship history. I'd been in violent relationships. I had a terrible relationship with my father, and okay, great, Lily's read it. I thought, I realized, and I also had decades of eating disorders. I had a very like swinging backwards and forwards relationship with love and with food and also with money. And then I realized that it was very similar dynamic in each of those areas and probably more. So in the book Attached, talks about how we can be very needy, we can be very anxiously attached to our partner or wanting a partner. So in relationships, I would want, if somebody said, you know, I really like you, I was thinking, why didn't they say they love me? If someone said I was pretty, I said, why did they say I was beautiful? If someone said text me tomorrow, I would be looking at the phone at 7 a.m. going, they haven't texted me yet. They haven't texted me yet, at 11 p.m. And why haven't they texted me? They said they'd text me, right? It's like, oh, babe, in a relationship now and I'm going on a stag do. Oh, my God, right? Text me every day, call me every day. Why can I come? I think I should come. I think it's 2025. Like, girlfriends should come on stag do's because they don't cheat on me because there was no trust, right? And freaking out at every opportunity. The opposite side of that unhealthy spectrum is to be avoidantly attached, where you are the person getting the texts going, oh, they've texted me twice today. What's wrong with them? Haven't they got a life? Or, they're holding hands. You're like, why they, oh my God, her hand's getting sweaty. Like, why is he or she, like, why are they holding my, oh my God, like, can I just let go? Like, oh God, like they're walking a bit close. Like, or, like maybe you've made love and they're like, okay, I'm going to go home now. See you next week. Right? Don't want to get too intimate. Don't want to get too embroiled in somebody else's life. Want everything to be at a bit of a distance because you're avoiding that level of intimacy. And and like the goal is to be, um, I've forgotten the exact term now, in the middle, healthy attachment, right? So that you're able to deal with, you can witness other people's like neurosis, and you can stay there, being stable, being secure in yourself, knowing that like, okay, well, they said they text and they haven't. They've probably had a busy day. I hope they're okay. I could text them. I might choose to text them saying thinking of you rather than why haven't you text me? You said you would. And it's like, okay, we're going to stag do, have a great time. I look forward to hearing about what you got up to. You know, I love you. Like, versus, oh, okay, I need a bit of space now. We've been together all weekend. Do you mind if I go for a walk and we'll pick up at dinner tonight? I just need to clear my head. And being okay with your needs, your desires, somebody else's needs, desires, because ultimately you're anchored in the secure attachment of who you are. And with money, the same dynamics pick up. So I'm going to share some examples of how they used to show up with me, and then you can put in the chat if you recognize any of this. So when I was anxious, my main style with money was to be anxiously attached with money. So because I'd always been self-employed and I didn't have a regular income, I would never, I always felt poor. I always felt like I didn't have enough. If I got paid today, and I can see some nodding heads, I didn't know if I'd get paid tomorrow, right? Like I was on a gig economy, like 0 hours contracts, or like, yeah, all right, great. I might get paid £1,000 for one day's work, but I might not have any other work this month. And I never know that. And then how can I possibly book a holiday? Because when am I ever going to pay for that? And I didn't have a family, so I didn't have to consider anybody else's needs. It was just my needs. So my needs just went away because I just lived in fear. I was an atheist. I had no trust in anything else other than like this. And I was deeply scarred by not feeling safe in the world. And I thought by being like in my masculine energy and just trying to fight the world and do everything myself in my own strength and constantly work and work and work and work in minimum wage, at least something's coming in, at least something's coming in. Okay. I see that. That's nodding heads. That this was my anxious style with money, which is why I wanted to know how much everything was, which is why I want to try and save all the time, which is why I didn't like spending anything. And then the way, and this I see more showing up with clients I work with, to be avoidant with money is when there's often more month left at the end of the money, right? So a client I worked with quite deeply over a few years, she sold a house in London and decided to buy somewhere out of London that she gets somewhere nicer, more for her money. And in the period of selling one house and buying another, she decided to take all of her friends on holiday and treat them all and pay for them all to go on holiday as a beautiful gesture because she'd just come into all this money. And this carried on to the extent that she no longer had enough for a deposit for a house outside of London because she was uncomfortable feeling wealthy or being seen as wealthy, and that her friends didn't have money, so she felt like she was losing the tribe, and that made her feel very uncomfortable. So she was telling herself, her narrative was, I'm being generous, I'm being kind, but she was actually just bleeding out everything that she had come into. And we can do this in small ways. We can do this in in ways where we go, oh, I've just been paid. I've worked so hard last month. I know what, I'll go online and do some online shopping and then, and I'll do this and I don't, you don't actually know where the money goes, but it's stripped away. And often we're spending when we're in places where we feel uncomfortable inside, right? And we tell ourselves we're treating ourselves, but in a way, it's a bit like any form of addiction, whether it be with alcohol or drugs or porn or whatever it might be. We're telling ourselves we're treating ourselves in the moment, but it's a long-term pain. And so coming into in a stable relationship with money is about being able to make the right choices, that you live a great, beautiful life, but you're also making your money work for you, so like a money machine, so that tomorrow, next week, next month, 10 years, 20 years, whether you choose to retire or not, you have provision for the future you as well as the you. And when I work, in the program, like I give you structure, I give you ways to think about the age you are, the risk appetite you have, how much you want to have, like what kind of lifestyle you want, about how you can start to look at now making very simple, clean structures. You don't need to have a financial education. I was never given one, but I've invested in one since, about how you can set things up for you. And it doesn't have to massively, it's not about not enjoying yourself today to just be focusing on tomorrow, because like, I mean, both my parents are dead. I've had people die in my arms in the street. Like, we never know if we're waking up tomorrow, right? There's no point saving for a rainy day and then never enjoying today. My grandparents were like that, right? Council flat council flat, and they had these chairs that had bits of, they were covered in plastic that were really uncomfortable to sit on so that they would last. But like, what's the point? What's the point? Well, you're sitting in a plastic bag. You might as well be sitting on them in a shop. But it was that fear thing, right? So it's about how to not be like that. Bless them, I love them. Um, but also be able to feel secure and safe that there's money coming in. And because the money's like the way the money system works, because of the way the world is, the fact that we are trillions of pounds in debt collectively, but to who is the good question. The entire planet is in debt. Who are we in debt to, right? I don't think God or whatever you consider that to be is sitting there going, you owe me money, you owe me rent for living on the earth, right? So the money system itself is a contract, concept. So it's understanding like how do we work within this matrix? How do we work within this system? Whether you think it's a good system or not, I think most people these days think it's a bad system. But how do we make the system work for us whilst being conscious with how we create, and also deeply understanding the neuroscience and the quantum physics about how to create and what it is we're creating, because money really doesn't exist, and consequently, and you're like, yes, Helen, but my mortgage exists and my rent exists and my food bills exist. So how do we marry this understanding of money as an energy with the practicalities? And it all starts with what is going on inside us, in the same way as I would be having the same conversation for my understanding of how I've healed my body. Like, and reversed all the diagnoses I would have for life. Like, yeah, my body is a physical vessel. I do have nerve endings and, veins and bloods and organs, but I also understand that we can, how we talk to our body, what we think about our body, the perception we have of our life and our health is also deeply imbued with how we heal. I would say more importantly than what pills we take on the main. So it's the same with how we relate to money. So in the chat, I'd love you to know if you resonate more with being anxiously attached to money, or avoidantly attached to money, or some people who might like swing between the two. Like when I was in my love life, and now I'm in a blessed and beautiful relationship with divine man, but in my love life back in the day, I would be dating avoidant. So I'd be looking at apps going, no, 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 right? And then I'd match with somebody, and then I'd go, no, but I don't want to go on the date, right? Like I would have with so much resistance. And then if I actually got into a relationship with somebody, I would be like very needy, right? Once I finally let my walls down. So you might be the same with money. Let me know. Anxiously attached, across all areas of your life. Great. Anxiously attached, freelancer, fear, partly to blame, working class background too. Between the two, right? Absolutely, we can. Anxious for sure. Great. And what the beauty of working on this area of your life is it bleeds into everything else in the best possible way. So I'll give you, it sort of takes me into the third and final point I really wanted to make, which is it's not about the money. When you start to heal your relationship with money, it, like any kind of area of healing, it's it's who you become on the journey of looking at this area of your life. So I used to be somebody who was always looking for, I'm just letting some people in the room. Um, I used to be somebody who was always looking for grants or handouts or like the I don't know, like the under 25 tickets or the under 30s tickets, and then getting frustrated that I was too old for the discounts, or um, looking for ways. Like I remember trying on clothes in like the kids' sizes in t-shirts in H&M. So it's like I don't, maybe I can get away without paying tax. It might be like maybe it's just sexy, but it's got like kids like Transformers on or something. Like I don't, because it's too small for me. Um, is this idea that as we begin to heal this area of our life, the identity of who we are and how we show up changes. So I used to always think I needed to be someone who needed to be helped out. I would go to the pub with friends who had proper, like full-time jobs, and I would expect them to always buy me drinks or buy me dinner, because in my head, they would like a transference of my parents, because I still felt like a child financially. And changing this now, it's like I have godkids who are 18 and 21, and I take them out and treat friends what I want to. But what's been most impactful for me, and this is a bit of a vulnerable share, is that I talk about this because I don't believe in the shame around it. I believe this is a part of my life, part of the world that I'd really like to heal um, is that I was sexually abused as a kid, and so, and I know lots of people have been, but I didn't ever. I always felt, for, for many reasons, I felt like a victim, and there's nothing wrong with that at that stage in my life. But I now, because of working on my money, I've paid for 4 girls who were being sexually trafficked to be taken out of trafficking this year in 2025, and they're now in therapy and they're in homes and they are being helped and have therapy till they're 16, and they're in a community, and that healing process has happened for them. Like nobody could do that for me, but I could do that for them. And I just came from a business conference in West Palm Beach in the States, and in 20 minutes, 5,000 people were there. We raised $2.4 million for this same charity. So that's 4,700 girls have now been rescued from trafficking. And I'm going on Tuesday, I fly to Germany for a different development event. I work a lot with Tony Robbins and his inner circle. And some of those girls are going to be there so it's that, that is why I do what I do. Because yeah, now I own property and I can have a car and I can buy clothes that I used to tell myself I couldn't afford, and all of those things, and that's great. But the big thing is that I now am someone who can do this, and I can help other people do that, and we can all give no matter what level. But it's now, the biggest thing was that I could have given, Tony Robbins says, if you're not going to give £1 out of 100, you're not going to give 1,000 out of 1,000,000, right? Like this ability to give and provide and serve has just been magnified by the way that I've managed to change and heal the relationship with money, and working with clients, even when they're starting at a smaller level and like starting to go, well, okay, well, choose a charity, like, or choose something that you buy a friend who is just really going through it, like a single mom with 3 kids. I'm going to buy her a massage and just send her the voucher in the post, right? This change of like, even if we haven't yet changed the amount coming in, if we can start to get conscious about what we can give and who we are, because when we give, we suddenly step into our financial power. Even if it's buying somebody a coffee in the queue behind us who you don't know, who, yes, they might be an arsehole, but if you just tell yourself they might be an arsehole, so I won't buy them a coffee, we keep blocking our good and our flow. And so there's our identity and what we tell ourselves, there's how we show up with money and our relationship with it, and then there's who we become once we start to take that aspect that maybe we've made wrong or it's felt toxic in some regards. And sometimes I work with people who have a lot of money, but they don't know how to own it because they have shame around it. Or they come from families of very wealthy people and they, for whatever reason, reject the family or the money because of what they think it sees them to be. And I have two sides to my business. Well, I have three really. I have a ceremonial grey cacao company because I think ceremonial grey cacao is an amazing tool for keeping us in our heart. I have a coaching company, which is really also partly consultancy because my coaching goes super deep and it's a bit therapeutic and it's very looking at all of your life. And that's where these programs sit. And then I have a consultancy where I speak and coach and facilitate in corporate environments around the world on conscious leadership and emotional intelligence. And in that space, I work with people who are multimillionaires, billionaires, and yet the problems are the same. It's never to do with how much money we have. It's to do with who we are with it, or how much we fear it running out. I mean, I know people who've like, they're on their way to their first billion, they have 500 million and they still feel poor, right? And they still can't enjoy their life and they still don't feel like they can give because they feel like they haven't got enough to give. And like that mindset is rife. It's what the mainstream narrative is set up to perpetuate. And so when we start to heal our relationship with money, when we start to break free, when we start to really live these points and others, we start to create in the world in a different way. We start to change what's possible for the children and the generations growing up now. We start to lay down new ways of doing business, new ways of investing in ourselves. And it gets really exciting and it gets really fun. And it just changes the way that we get out of bed every day. And so I'm going to give you a few tools to think about that you can take away from this session before I open it up for Q&A. First is look at your wallet or your purse, or if you might not have one now, everything might be done through your phone. And yet money is something that we need to get up close and personal with. And if we do everything just by like tapping and digitalizing, it takes away the intimacy, it takes away the tactility, if that's a word, with our relationship with it. So I always like to have banknotes in the house, like a wad of them, because I like to be able to just see and feel money when I want it. If I have my cleaner, I want to be able to pay her cash. If I have a massage, I want to be able to pay cash. I want to be able to keep that understanding that this is a tool that can go both ways. And there's something about just having a plastic card or your phone, which is not really a phone, it does many things now, and just tapping a computer against somebody else's computer, which makes everything so impersonal. It's the equivalent of giving a present to your best friend. Like you would want to maybe wrap it up in nice wrapping paper. Like you might run out of time and give it to them in a bag and say, sorry, I don't have time to wrap it. But the idea is that the aspiration is that you get something with a bow on it. Or it was my birthday on Saturday, I got a card with rose petals in, right? Like an extra little touch. Like these things that when we are actually transacting with people, when we're giving people money, it's like when it's tactile, it can feel like a gift. And when it's just transactional, it's the equivalent of saying, well, happy birthday, I'll put 50 quid in your account or 20 quid in your account, right? Or those like body shop vouchers that I always knew at high school meant they didn't really like me because they hadn't thought about who I was and they just bought me a voucher, right? So how can you bring your relationship with money closer? And that can be, yes, cash, but it can also be like, what is your wallet? Is your wallet like this big, filled with receipts, 3 months old tube tickets, train tickets? Has it got 27 coupons for 2p off cereal at Tesco's? Is it kind of like falling apart at the seams and looks like it's kind of unattractive? Is it something that's very beautiful and like has a nice zip or a nice popper and or it's a beautiful color, or it's fun, or it's got glitter on, or is it something that you like feel pleased to take out of your bag? It doesn't have to be like a designer, whatever. Like it's just something that works for you. I have a beautiful wallet that a client gave me that's handmade leather and painted and artisan, and I really love it. So, what is, because every time you touch it, it's like it's a portal to your money. So, how can you do something simple that means that every time you're going to pay for something, it can bring you into gratitude? It relates money to beauty, it relates money to worth. If you're a guy, maybe you don't want to go for a pink glittery one, maybe you do, I don't mind. But, like, it's like some wallet that makes you feel secure and stable and abundant, or like, like the identity that you would like to have with money. If you can't yet afford to buy the home that you would like to have financially, get the wallet that you want, your purse that you want to start being that. And the same can go with our bank accounts. No, like spreadsheets are not, I'm not a spreadsheet person, right? Like they're handy, but I'm not someone, I'm an artist, right? I like rolling around in a rehearsal room, putting paint on a canvas, getting down into the deep gritty with a client, you know, passing the tissues and the cacao and like turning things around. I'm not somebody who feels lit up by opening a spreadsheet and sorting out chaos into financial numbers. But I can do it because I understand the value of it. So with your bank accounts, in the same way as you want to have a tactile relationship with like the portal of money, your wallet, have a tactile relationship with the way that you want to see your money. And if you have multiple bank accounts, you might have them, sometimes you can see them all feeding together in the same app. But what I also like is to have a spreadsheet where I can have the bank, the amount the date, the amount I have in it, the interest rate that's being paid into it, and whether I'm in the red or the green, and then I can see across, because then if the interest rates change and they go up or they go down, and go, oh, actually, that bank isn't changing the interest rate. Let me put all my savings in there, or let me put some of my savings in there so I'm earning more money. And it's something that I do every quarter, unless there's a big financial change in the weather, and it gives me a sense of being empowered. This is especially important if you're slightly ashamed or uncomfortable about how much money you have. Because until we have clarity, until we have honesty and truth, the truth will set you free. We cannot change it. Right? My boyfriend with the lentils next to his door, I should have seen this as a flag the first time I went to his home, was just this big box of unopened mail and papers and bills, right? It was like at least a year's worth of stuff that he just was not taking responsibility for. He was just dropping down. And so the way forward is the way to get clear. So to know where you are, you can, if you don't know where you are, it's very difficult to get to where you want to be. It's like if you're lost in a field and you don't know what field you're in, or what county you're in, or what country you're in, and you want to get to Mozambique, it's going to take you a long time because you don't know what direction to point in. So get yourself a spreadsheet. The way to make it fun, or the way that I make my nervous system enjoy it, is I like candles. I put incense on. I make myself cacao. You see, I like cacao, so I have a cacao brand, Heart Healer Cacao, if anyone else wants to try some great cacao. And I make it like a spiritual practice rather than something that happens late at night when I'm exhausted, when I'm kind of trying to just do it quickly before bed, or get out the door, or be somewhere else. And so, how, in the same way as you might go, oh, self care is my yoga class, self care is my bubble bath, great, I love those things too. Self care is me sitting down. Um, Self care is me, sorry, I just had a flashy thing up on my, um, that's me. Why is it asking me to do that? So, self care for me is me sitting down and doing these things financially as well. And the final thing is about to how can you bring yourself more, if you're anxiously attached, What is one thing that you can do that's going to bring you more to be stably attached? And if you're avoidantly attached, the spreadsheet is a great thing to start doing to become more securely attached. So maybe think for yourself, would it be taking myself on a date once a month where I spend money on myself, and that's the day where maybe I buy myself a beautiful outfit that isn't for work, Kate, or maybe, it's the day that I take myself to um, somewhere. This is also something I like to do that makes me feel really elevated, right? So if you go and buy a cup of coffee in McDonald's, I have a lot of problems with McDonald's, but let's just say you like McDonald's, bless them. Their environments are full mica plastic and, balloons and bright colours and loud pop music. It's not the most, I don't feel elevated in that environment. It's a bit greasy. There's greasy food. The environment feels a bit greasy. Your kind of up-leveled environment might be the Savoy, or it might be a field with a teepee, and it doesn't have to be an expensive environment, but it's something that makes your soul feel up leveled. And so the coffee in McDonald's, I think, is probably about £2. The coffee, or 2.99. The coffee in a beautiful boutique hotel might be 4.99. But you could sit there for 2 hours and do your financial plan, or take your spreadsheet and finances there and do it in that kind of environment. Or if you're birthing a new business course, or you want to write a letter about your business to bring in some more money, like, take yourself into an environment that allows your nervous system to feel abundant and healthy and secure and wealthy, and start to make the decisions and the actions that you take to make money from places that make you feel like you have money. Because that will start to shift your identity from being somebody who hasn't to somebody who has. And if you're taking, I'm not saying like go to those kind of environments and then start scrolling on Instagram, but go to those sorts of environments and give yourself an hour, 2 hours to take actions that could bring you in more money. If you run your own business, that might be your newsletters, that might be looking for joint ventures with people, that might be collaborations, that might be writing your book. If you work within a corporation or an environment that's already established, that might be looking at how you can what over deliver so that you can ask for a bonus or a raise or a promotion. That might be looking at how you can then set up your own foundation, or what charity you want to partner with. That might be you looking at how you can give or support or use your time to support others that you believe in. How does that sit with people? How does that sound? Those actions to take away, and put in the chat one thing that you think, yeah, I could do that. I'm gonna start doing that today. Environment change resonates. Yeah, great. It's fun. And when you do something like that consciously, also it means that you can go to somewhere really beautiful. And like, I used to feel guilty for going into places like that. It's like, no, this is an investment in myself. This is a business strategy. Financial management, a spiritual activity. Love it. With cacao and candles, and update your purse. Yes, fantastic. Oh, right, lovely restaurant. I'm going to take your spreadsheets there. Fantastic. So, thank you so much for giving me your time and joining, and all of those of you catching the replay, like holding you in the space as well, sending love to you. Those of you who feel like this is enough and that's great, and you want to take this and go away and get on with it, fine and fabulous. Those of you who are like, okay, I can feel some stuff stirring. I know there's some work here. I've got a bit further to go. Or, maybe you've got the great business and the money's rolling in, but you haven't thought about then like legacy and how can you help others? How can you then maybe you've got out of survival, like how do you then move into thriving and supporting other people to thrive? In Not About the Money, which is a course that kind of I've designed a program to take everything that I have learned and make it really accessible. Yep, no problem. For those who have to go, it starts on the 25th of September, and it's 11 week journey, but there's over 9 weeks. So I've put in 2 week gaps in the course because I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm doing a program, like it can feel, especially if it's deep and effective and there's things to do, it can feel like, oh, I'm getting behind or there isn't enough time. So there are strategically placed portals for you, your nervous system to regulate, for you to kind of integrate, for you to catch up with things. And if you don't have to join, everything is recorded. You can do it in your own time. It's great if you can join things live. If you can't, you get live coaching. We go one-on-one. We can work deeply with what's coming up for you in the space in front of other people. And you can, if you get the replay, you can listen to other people's processes with that. You also get hand workbooks, and they're not epically long and just full of extra images for the sake of it. They're streamlined. They give you actionable takeaways. They give you things that you can sit down and, often when I'm talking, it might sound like, oh, that's a lot. The workbooks are really clear and simple so that you've got the actual, actually, step 1, do this, step 2, do that, step 3, your version of this. And I've just finished last week running it, and the women who joined, 2 people who didn't have businesses have started businesses, got websites, got collaborations, got things going. People who were already doing well have up-leveled. Great friendships were formed. Real mix of ages across the group, and I was really moved by the results that people got, but also the growth that people went through. And people turned down jobs and got better jobs and started living much more with a lot more faith and trust and alignment and courage with them and their finances and then the choices they were making. So if that sounds like something that's right for you, fantastic. There is the group version. There is also, for those of you who think this is really a serious issue in your life, whether that be already having a lot and wanting to do more, or knowing that you're in a position where you want some deeper work, there's an option to do some VIP one-to-one work with me as well, where we can go really deep with what you're doing. And the whole course is held in a group so that throughout the days, throughout the sessions, people are contributing each week. There's a room for each week of the course. There's a different theme for each week. You can get all the replays there. You get your own access to the portals. You get lifetime access to everything, but also people drop videos in, they drop results in, they're dropping their takeaways. People are forming friendships through the group. So everything is live. It's not like, I don't know, therapy once a week on a Wednesday afternoon or whatever it might be. The whole point of it is that money likes to move fast. And that's why the way that it's structured is there's some weeks there are 2 sessions a week and then you have a gap, and then it's a bit like contractions, because I feel like the work of healing your relationship with money is a bit like giving birth to a new version of yourself. So we kind of we go in and it's intense and deep, and then you have some relaxation and can process it, and then we go in and it's intense and deep, and then there is a relaxation, you can process it, and at the end you have birthed you with your new relationship with money. So for those of you who've joined the webinar and those of you who are watching the replay today, there's £250 off for signing up with the code. You're going to get that with an email with the link right after this. Those of you who are ready to go at the moment, it's NATM250. And then those of you who are signing up later from Wednesday onwards, it's up to Wednesday midnight, is a £200 off. So for 24 hours, there's £250. And that's off both versions of the group and the group with the VIPs, one-to-one sessions. So if that's not for you, no worries. Um, I also work with people at a deeper level, one to one, for periods of time. I have a mastermind that's a year-long program starting in January for those of you who are interested in that. But now we have 10 minutes. I'm really happy to take any questions either about the course, about anything I've spoken about today, or anything you've got coming up about the things I've shared. So if you don't want to come on camera, you don't have to. You can put them in the chat. But if you'd like to unmute, bear in mind you will be in the recording. Yeah, and thank you, because it was something similar to this that was the beginning of my journey of turning my life around, and I'm, yeah, very grateful I did.
Thanks, Helen. That was absolutely brilliant. Lovely, wonderful. Not sure this is a very well formulated question, but in the group, is there space capacity to kind of look at one's value creation within a current business? So in what I currently do, but I sense that there is there's more, if you like, there's something that's not being shown to the world that's ready to be shown, and potentially the money could be the blocker.
Absolutely. There are specific weeks, especially in the second half, where we look at, first of all, we start with you and what's going on inside you with your relationship with money, and then it moves into your business, your ways of earning money, and ways that, especially, I don't know if you know about the 80/20 rule, like how you can use work less time to leverage and have more money, and how you can think about segmenting the ways that you have different price points, different ways for people to work with you, how you can expand. Because ultimately, when we become more whole, we can give and serve at a higher level.
Mm.
And when you can do that, like, to value yourself, you should also be able to charge for that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And if there's something specific, then there's also the VA, there's also the one-to-one option where we can
Mm.
go really deep. And I'm lots of experience. I've been coaching in the business world since 2008. So in
Yeah,
all different industries, I've got a lot of business acumen about the way that different companies are structured and different ways that things people might think about, of changing their business or the way that they do work in the world.
yeah. Great. And I've got a call booked in with you, but I think it's after um your deadline. But I suppose the timing wise, I'll check, and it'll work out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, after this, I'm flying away, so I can't take calls before then. But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
if you want to sign up, and then we can always go deeper on the call. If you want to go in at the group and then maybe up level to the VIP, I will still honor the discount.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Great.
So, Helen, I've got a question or more an observation of myself, really, because I work in the humanitarian sector with charities and I'm on the ground in the grassroots working with vulnerability and suffering all the time.
Mm.
I know I'm high worth, I know I'm really valuable, but I feel so guilty. How can I walk into communities that are suffering whilst I'm standing there wealthy? How do I reconcile that? And linked to that a little bit is my spiritual work. I've learned a lot around Buddhism and things like that. This non-attachment, not being attached to materialistic things in order to make me happy. And I've done a lot of work on that. But I need money in order to do more good in the world, but I'm blocking it because of those misconceptions, I suppose. Do you have any observations around that? I'm going to make the most of you whilst you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. So often, the non-attachment thing actually comes from being avoidant. It comes from fear of having, because not trusting how you have it, or that you will buy the wrong thing, or the thing you have is toxic. It's a bit like our relationship with food. When we live in a world where a lot of people overeat or eat the wrong kind of food, that doesn't mean that starving ourselves, or having an anorexic or very unhealthy relationship with food is right. It's about having things that really nourish us, that allow us to sustain and have a really long healthy life. And some days we might eat a little bit too much, and some days we might eat a little bit less, but it's about really listening to our body and course correcting so that we can serve and give and play at the highest level. And it's the same it's the same with our finances, right? For you to be able to be in spaces where people have less, and this also sort of ties into understanding, like we're all challenged. I believe my word would be God. I believe that God is in charge of everything. I believe that
Me too.
suffering is part of life, is also Buddhist philosophy, right? And if you're there to help people, if you don't provide for yourself fully, your ability to help them is going to be limited, right? If you're
Mm.
not able to give yourself holidays or therapy or body work or whatever it is that you
Yes.
need to be able to keep on going back into those very emotionally draining and painful places, and I salute you for doing that work, not everybody can, then your burnout rate is going to be sped up if you're not able to resource yourself. And to resource yourself, you need finances. And if I think about like me, like stuck at earning 25K a year for decades versus me with seven figures, like the amount I can help people is massively improved and heightened and expanded because I have more. And
Yes.
so it's like, it's the guilt doesn't serve them and it doesn't serve you. So it's having the
Mm.
courage to let go of the guilt and trust that God has not sourced the universe has not created a fair experience for us all. We're all tested and trialed in different ways. And so having faith and trust in the process of this life that we cannot fathom, but knowing that the truth is that if you love and care for yourself, you can love and care for others in a way that you could never do before. And then in terms of non-attachment, it's like I think there's a lot of power in this. It's getting really focused and clear on our goals and our desires, but holding them lightly, right? And my prayer is always, you know, God, use my life for the highest and best good of all, right?
Yes.
I believe God knows more about what's right for me than I do, but I also believe that my desires and wants and why they're different to other people's desires and wants feed into the divine plan or the unique mystery of life. And so my desire and my want might be a Mercedes Benz, but who I become trying to, making the money to get the Mercedes Benz might mean that I have to go on this training and meet these kind of people or start therapy or whatever it might be. And then I'm like, I actually don't want the Mercedes Benz. I want to set up a foundation. So it's not the goal, it's trusting that there's nothing wrong with me wanting something. And in the Buddhist philosophy that I was part of, its earthly desires are enlightenment. Because if you pursue what you want, we're not born without wants. Wants aren't bad. If we didn't know we wanted to eat, we wouldn't eat and we would die. But trusting that your wants and desires will change over time. And also, sometimes they're the fire we need up our bum to get off the sofa and be in action, because life is creation. And if there's no such thing as stasis, so if we're not moving forward, we're actually diminishing because life is moving forward. So our wants and desires are the thing that help us move forward. And the more we move forward, ideally, consciously, the more we grow and the more those desires and wants move forward. But there's another Buddhist analogy that I find helpful is if there are two wheels on a cart, if your life is going round in circles, it's because one of the wheels has come off. And those two wheels are giving to yourself and giving to others, right?
Mm. Nice.
So if you're not in balance financially, if you're not in balance nutritionally, physically, emotionally, you're no good to you and you're no good to other people.
Mm. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, it's really helpful. Thank you.
Great. Okay, I'm getting good. I'm getting much more in time. I'm often not in time. So we've come to the end of the time I said we'd be in. Thank you so much. You will be getting an email today with the link with the discount code. I would love to see you there. It is a really special program. The results people have got have been extraordinary. There was nobody in the last cohort who did not get more than they expected in terms of results. Um, and so the deadline for the £250 off is midnight tonight. And then if you still need to think about it and sit with it, I encourage you to sign up before Wednesday at midnight because that's £200 off, and then the price will go back to the full price. We start on the 25th of September. Um, there are payment plan options there. If people need extra payment plan options, I can do it, but it's just more a sense of when you take the leap, often it's the leap of faith that then other things start activating and money appears and things come in. It's how I've lived my life. But and sort of like playing it safe and eking things out sometimes isn't the most helpful energy to work with the program. But I also understand we're all in different situations, and I can have conversations with payment plans that are longer than what's offered if needed. Because ultimately I really want to help you get this working and heal this area of your life. Thank you. If you want to put 3 words in the chat about how you're feeling as you exit, it's good for me to be able to see what people are taking away. And if you're watching the replay, just have a little check-in for yourself. Now is the right time. There is never a better time. We are never ready to do the work. It's always the moment that we feel the moment we have the desire or the thought about it. I wish that I'd started working on my money story years before, because I would have more, be able to give more, and do more, and uplifted and inspired. Fantastic. Okay, people, energized and reflective. Yeah, hopeful, challenged. Yes, sending you a hug for that. And anyone else, maybe take some 10 minutes in nature, or walk outside in your garden, on the street, get some fresh air, before flying off into the next thing. Because, like I said at the beginning, money and sex are the 2 most triggering areas that there are. But yeah, okay. Lots of love to everybody, and hopefully see you all in September. And look forward to speaking, Kate. Okay, bye bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.